Tell me a bit about yourself, your backstory. Obviously, we know each other, but just for everyone else, a quick overview of like how you got to where you are right now.
Right. Well, this story usually takes more than just a bottle of wine, but we'll try to condense it into a very very short paragraph. I started my career as a stockbroker in Perth, and learned from some pretty smart guys over there. Came back, did some time in Sydney as well. Moved into options trading, but then from there I moved out of broking, and I decided to start running. I started my first startup called Surgeon Group. It was like an efficiency broker. What we did was we tried to manage all the variable costs of businesses that specifically acted within the hospitality industry, and we did very well out of that for a while. And from that, it kind of morphed into a one of the services that we offered was printing to all these venues, and we kind of morphed into a sort of a hybrid printer / agency as a result of opportunities we found in creating marketing material from variable data, and that sort of morphed into from there, sort of from doing things, doing marketing material that was driven by data. We found we were getting a lot of cut through from the perspective of we were getting a lot of good feedback or good impact from our customers, but the cut through wasn't that great because people's mailboxes were full of other rubbish basically. And so what we decided to do was then to move into something we called lumpy mail, which was another word for paper engineering. And so from there, we started to do a lot of projects for large companies where we were making very bespoke marketing material like boxes and kits and things that opened up and that had secret little passages and so on, little doors, and it was just all driven around generating interactivity and making the end consumer feel that much more special because they can see that effort's gone into the product or the material that's being sent to them. And as a result, obviously, making lumpy mail, we were kind of noticed, so we got a lot more cut through, and that was working really well. And then from there, we decided, that business grew for a few years, and then I sold that, and I decided to start Spiff, which was basically an offshoot of the paper engineering that we were doing. I decided that there was opportunity there to create some of these bespoke products that we were making, that larger corporates were using once, and paying a lot of money for. I decided to see if I could create a platform that could make designing and producing an item like that for a lot less. In fact, try to make it so that it could become a profitable item as opposed to just a bespoke marketing material exercise. So, and that's basically how Spiff was born. So we were used by tier one companies, and and they were using us for their tier one customers. So we had this sort of ceiling above our heads where we felt like, only a very small, percentage of the population was getting to see our work or enjoying the benefits of our work. And so we decided that we wanted to build a platform that allowed any merchant, any size merchant, to take advantage of these really sort of high-end paper engineered type products, and then allow their customers to personalize them and then order them in small quantities. So in doing that, we inadvertently created a platform that could do customization and personalization across any product, not just complex paper engineered products. And that's how Spiff was born.
Wow. So you must have your finger on the pulse in terms of the retail and e-com industry right now, which is, under a lot of change. how do you feel it's doing right now? Like, you've got your ear to the street. What are people telling you, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, certainly. Like, if you, I mean, obviously these days you've got to break up any industry into two components. You've got your in-store and you've got your online components, and certainly the in-store components, for obvious reasons, have been smacked. Unless the in-store business is an essential service, they no doubt, no matter where they are in the world, would have been negatively impacted by the obviously COVID pandemic. But from an online perspective, we've seen quite a shift towards, consumers that previously never really bought online. We found that there's a lot of new entrants to the online market. People that generally didn't trust the online market in the past and always preferred the in-store experience have sort of been forced to try out the online world, and a lot of them are finding that they're enjoying the experience, and so regardless of what happens from here, I feel like that online world of retail is going to benefit long term. If what happens in the short term is going to depend on how deeply we fall into this recession, because that'll obviously control consumer spending. But once we sort of get to the other side of this, I think that certainly the online retail world will, benefit significantly from the impact that the pandemic has had.
Hey, so I've been hearing, because I'm connected with a couple of people in the e-com space, and there's a lot of discussion about bringing production back onshore and localizing it, because people are going to retail stores and trying to buy things, and because nothing's been able to get into the country, things are selling out that people would normally have in stock. So what do you see? Do you see that as a trend in the future as well? Not just online, but also localization, one-to-one sort of product production?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably been one of the most significant changes that we've seen, is that a lot of merchants now, that have previously had all their fulfillment being offshored off to to China and to other countries that offer cheap labor, have felt like control has been taken from under their feet, because they've got a business and it operates and it does well and they've got customers and they've worked really hard to build that. But then there's this thing called supply, and in a pandemic, that just goes away. And I think that's been experienced on a country level, and I think that you'll find that a lot of countries now, most countries now, will look towards trying to bring back, some of that, trying to de-globalize the manufacturing, sector, and you'll see a lot of funding. I believe that the government should and probably will, increase funding, encouraging businesses to bring manufacturing back onshore. But more importantly, what we've found from our side directly in our business is that we're finding that a lot more people, certainly in the customization and personalization sector, are trying to now fulfill on their own. They're buying printers, they're buying, engravers and so on, and they're bringing that all back in-house. And if not, they're shifting their fulfillment to local 3PL providers or fulfillers of whatever kind. But certainly we're finding that they are definitely moving it local.
Right. Okay. So that brings me to the sort of question I really want to ask you, because you're someone who knows everything about customization and personalization. Which one is better, standardized products or products that are personalized and localized and customized one-to-one?
I mean, obviously, if you ask 10 people, which would they prefer? A product that is, that they've been able to customize or personalize to their own requirements or not, invariably the answer will be that the customer will always prefer to have something that's been made for them. The challenge has always been to make that a profitable exercise. How much is somebody, because for obvious reasons, the cost of production for an item to be personalized or customized, goes up, because there's more handling, there's more fulfillment, there's there's, and all the preparation that goes into actually producing an item off the manufacturing line, where, hundreds of thousands are made, for general consumption every day. So the trick has been, so the question has never been about whether personalization is something that people want. Everybody wants personalization. It's about how much people are prepared to pay extra for it. And what we found is, in a lot of cases, people don't want to pay huge amounts extra. There are definitely some products that people will pay a lot more for, and we're seeing that in certainly in things like the shoe market. Buying shoes now, you're finding that a lot of people are trending towards spending extra money to have a shoe that is built specifically, by them. It's got the texture, the color, the soles, the laces, the insoles, everything about it is something that they want, because shoes are something that last, and shoes are something that people take a lot of pride in. So people will spend more on producing something that is personalized in that game. But in other games, people are not prepared to pay that much more for personalization. So the challenge has always been in how do I offer personalization, which I know everybody wants, without having to charge too much more and still maintain my profit margin.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think that's really interesting. Like I was reading a Deloitte report the other day that said people are prepared to pay at least 40% more, on average compared to a standardized product. Are you seeing that reflected in some of the clients that you're working with as well? That people are
Absolutely. People are definitely, as a rule, like I said, depending on the products, but as a rule, people are definitely prepared to pay more for a personalized product, and they're also prepared to wait longer to receive it, right?
That's interesting. Because that is the one thing with like offshore, drop shipping. If it comes from China, there's a lot of retailers that are just the face of like a retail face for like outsourced drop shipping, and they still have to wait 8 weeks for the product to arrive. So that instantaneity of the gratification of the sale is lost, right? So the personalization, localized production, quicker dispatch as well.
Well, that's I think the benefit of that's probably the positive that's come out of all of this is when people have the confidence to be able to fulfill products that they're offering locally. They can and do it in a manner that's efficient and cost effective. They can turn things around faster while still maintaining that level of customization that people like. And that's, I think, this pandemic has kind of forced people into doing that, and the trick has always been, and the reason why we created Spiff was because we saw the market need. On one hand, you have a consumer that wants personalization, that will, and on the other hand, you've got a merchant that wants to be able to offer the personalization, and there's fulfillers that can do the fulfillment and cost effectively, but there was no software that facilitated that transaction model.
So do you think sorry, just to interrupt, do you think there's a bit of a legacy mentality that like merchants and retailers and brands aren't really aware that this opportunity exists? Or
look, I certainly think it is something that most businesses that think about how to innovate their business, I think this becomes the on the top of their list. It gets to the top of their list pretty quickly. But yes, there are still a very large percentage of merchants who still don't understand the value that personalization can bring.
Well, this is a really exciting area. This is very cutting edge. So, I really want to know more about your company. Tell me, what is Spiff? What does it do? I have no idea. Give me a rundown.
Well, okay. So Spiff, if I was going to summarize Spiff in a couple of sentences from the consumer's perspective, what we try to do is simulate the in-store experience. So think about when you go in store, you have a store clerk, they come and they talk to you, they ask you what you like and what you want, what are you buying this item for, and who's it for? Is it for yourself? And what event is it for? There's all this personal care that goes into helping you make the right choice that doesn't exist in the online world, right? And so Spiff's primary purpose, reason for existence, is to try to simulate as much as possible that actual that actual experience. From a merchant perspective and from a fulfiller's perspective, you would think of Spiff as the platform that allows a merchant to create any customization or personalization experience for their consumer, with the sole purpose of actually creating an output file, whether it be a PDF, a JPEG, a permalink, metadata, that sole purpose is to actually automate the fulfillment process, and therefore significantly reduce the cost of personalization.
Wow. Okay, that sounds pretty good. I think everyone wants that right now. It sounds very complex as well. So, like, it sounds the technical barriers must be pretty huge with this. How long have you been working on this?
Yeah, look, we've had to solve a lot of problems, and we're only, a smallish team. We're still a team of, I think we're up to about 9 now. And, there's a lot of very big problems that we've solved. I think none more so right now. Nothing's, like from an enterprise level, we've been working on this now for, a good 4 years, let's say.
Okay, so can you give me a specific experience then? Because it sounds great, but like and if you can disclose some of the brands you're working with or whatever, or campaigns, like give me an example of how they've used Spiff to do what you say Spiff does.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, look, in the early stages when we built the platform capabilities, it was all server side. We didn't really have much of a UI for the merchant to set themselves up. So we had to, we sold directly to mainly enterprise, because as a startup, obviously cash flow is king. And so we went after those enterprise businesses looking for large personalization campaigns. So we've worked with the likes of Nestle, with Mars, in particular with Maltesers. With Nestle, we worked on the Allen's brand, the Kit Kat brand. We've worked with Lindt. We've worked with Cadbury, Mondelez. We've worked with Cocoa Black now more recently. And what we did for most of those brands is that we executed in-store personalization campaigns on those confectionery brands. And so they were generally seasonally based. So they were either an Easter or a Christmas campaign. And it's where, it's where you can, and Vegemite as well. That's another iconic Australian brand.
Did you do that Vegemite campaign? Because I saw you could order your own, like for the American users, Marmite in the UK is big. Americans kind of hate Vegemite. They hate the taste of it.
Well, no, in fairness, in defense to Vegemite, Americans that don't like Vegemite don't like it because they're not doing it right. It's they tend to grab
Tom Hanks thing that I saw, because
Tom Hanks actually finally got it right. So they were taking spoonfuls of Vegemite, and that would kill anybody. It's not one of those things that you do like you use like that. It's spread very thinly over a piece of toast with butter, and it gives it an amazing flavor.
Okay, so give me an example.
Very thinly.
What did you do for Vegemite then? Because this has been getting a lot of publicity. Like they had this banter going between the Marmite brand in the UK during the Ashes, and then Ash Barty, the women's world #1 player, I saw they did jars of like Barty-mite. So they changed the actual brand name from Vegemite to Barty-mite. And like they did a limited release, I think, and that was a big campaign. They sold like hotcakes. What did you do for Vegemite?
Yeah, so for Vegemite, we're the facilitator of their entire personalization campaign. Our software has been used in store and online, and is currently still being used online to facilitate that campaign. And we facilitate that campaign from the entire customer journey, from the actual online experience. When you go onto their site and you click Customize Now. It's Spiff that presents the 3D model, that presents the personalization experience, and then when you purchase, it's Spiff that creates the PDF, that sends it off to their 3PL manufacturer, that allows them to then actually pick, pack, print, label, fulfill, and send out to the customer.
Wow. So you're all the way from that design process. I'm assuming the customer can kind of do this design online. Like, do they see the
That's
design
right.
before it comes out,
Yeah,
or?
that's right. So our customers get to view all of these products in 3D.
So,
So
so
it's
I can type in my name and call it John O'Might or whatever, and I'll see what it looks like before I check out.
correct. Yeah, correct. And this is a very, very simple use of our software where,
Wow.
you've got a basic, you've got a basic 3D model. The user can spin around it. They can zoom in on the product, and then they can see their name, actually populate. And they'll actually see an almost perfect rendition of the actual product that they're going to get. And
Wow.
that's, I think, one of the most important things things that customers, that our merchants like about our software is that we can actually portray what the end product is going to look like to almost perfection in 3D. So a
Wow.
user has absolute confidence, a consumer, sorry, has absolute confidence when purchasing a product on a merchant site that uses Spiff, that the product that they're seeing and customizing is the one that they're actually going to get.
Great. So that's really powerful because I know when I'm checking out, if it's a customized product, you never really know what it's going to look like until it arrives at your door. Like if you're purchasing online, right? They'll have little fields for put your name here, click this color, but they always have a standard sort of image of the product, and you can't see what it's going to look like until it arrives. And then sometimes it doesn't meet your expectations, right? So your tech gets rid of that whole issue by just showing
Yeah,
them what it'll look like before it arrives.
absolutely. And so as a result, we're seeing a significant reduction in the dropout rates in the cart
Wow.
because once a consumer can see a product and understands the product and what they're going to get, they're less likely to sort of back out in the cart stage.
And I
And
suppose from a marketing perspective as well as that commitment consistency thing, if you've spent time, sunk cost on like designing this thing for like a couple of minutes, you're not going to back out, are you? You're like, that's exactly what
no,
I want.
that's
I've
right.
already committed to the purchase almost.
Yeah, that's right. And look, different products have different amounts of time. Like if you go online and you want to buy a Tesla, you use their product configurator and you'll spend 10, 15 minutes choosing out all that, but you're spending $200,000, right? So you want to see you want to spend time. But if you're buying a Vegemite jar, you want to be in and out in 10 seconds. So the beauty of our software is that you can deliver the experience that you want as the merchant.
So,
That's the beauty of it. Everything is configurable. You can choose to make an experience quick, or you can choose to offer a customization over every aspect of the product that
so,
you're offering.
can you give me another example? Like, I was trying to buy some shoes the other day. Like, have you done anything in that area? Like, I know about Nike ID thing, but have you done a really high quality sort of customizable or personalizable shoe or?
As a matter of fact, we have. We have a company that is using us in the UK. It's
So you guys
the
are
company
global.
was correct. Yeah. So because we're listed, we have an API, which means that we can connect to any merchant platform or any e-commerce platform in the world. But we have an out-of-the-box plugin for Shopify and for WordPress slash WooCommerce merchants. And so as a result of that, that gives us global reach with regards to who we can deal with. And because we're a cloud-based infrastructure, we can operate anywhere in the world.
Okay, so tell me about the shoe guy because I was about to buy some really nice dress shoes. Now that we're going back to the office, have to, keep care of our appearance now. Tell me about the shoe guy. Like, what do you do for him in the UK?
Yeah, so his company is amazing. Like they are a company that hand cuts the panels to every shoe, and so you can choose the color of the dye for each panel of your shoe. You can choose the laces, the soles, the color of the soles. You can choose the type of material that goes on there. So you can choose to have a part of your shoe in a crocodile skin and or a simulated crocodile, I should say. I believe they're not actual crocodile skins.
Okay.
I would hope not. Anyway, So have crocodile on one part and have like a Scotch Guard finish on the other, and so it gives, and because it's handmade, I think it was and because he's got that online presence, he wasn't seeing the sort of he wasn't finding customers were prepared to commit to spending £300 or £400, or even more, £500 on a pair of shoes when they couldn't physically see what the product was going to look like and skim, and see every aspect of it, and be able to zoom in and actually almost smell, touch, feel the actual texture of the shoe.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm dropping £500 on a pair of shoes, I want to make sure that I know the guy and, can see, that's something you generally go into store and like feel the leather and look at it and do all that. But
Right.
Obviously with COVID, he probably can't do that, can he?
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, that obviously was obviously COVID's been a major disruption for his business because the majority, until now, a large majority of their business had to be in store. And so they had this great in-store experience. Their store is located in like an old English castle, and you go in there, and from start to finish, like from when you walk in, it's the entire experience is around, is derived around making you feel special, making you feel one of a kind. And from the chair you sit in, the consultation, and the way they present the existing shoes they've got, on their shelves, it's an amazing experience. And so our job was to try to simulate that online, and I think that's it's worked out really well.
Okay, I'm going to put a link to that because I think that's a really interesting example. I did a bit of research on you before, obviously, this interview, but was that the guy that was on Dragon's Den, which is like the Shark Tank kind of
Correct.
version of the UK?
Yes. Yeah, so he was featured on Dragon's Den and presented to the Dragons. I think that happened in February or March. So, so it's definitely a credible business and a credible company. From our perspective, it's been a really good experience to partner with them.
Great. Hey, so like I keep hearing this term customization, personalization. What's the difference?
The terms are often thrown around together as if they're the same thing, but they're very, very, very different. With personalization, you're actually asking the user. The easiest way to describe it is that you're asking the actual consumer, your actual consumer, to actually add their own content, right? So that could be by typing in a message, by adding an image, by choosing from illustrations that you've got and positioning it in the place that they want to position on the actual product, and choosing colors and stuff like that in that particular instance with an illustration. But customization is choosing from inventory based selection. So if I've got a chair and I have different wood grain finishes and I have different fabrics that can be used, and I have different colors for those fabrics, but they're all inventory items, those things, when a customer chooses their combination, that's classed as a customization, because the merchant doesn't have to fulfill any sort of print in as part of the actual fulfillment process. With personalization, there has to be an actual print made that's then added to the product.
Okay, so it's like the difference between choosing from some predetermined selections, right, that are ubiquitous to everybody, versus putting your own stamp of authority on the product personally.
Yeah, correct. And personalization could be actually personalizing the contents of a product. So take a chocolate box. You have a chocolate box that can be personalized by choosing the combinations of chocolate. So you might have, chocolates that are all milk chocolate or dark chocolate or so on, or you can actually physically, and that would be classed as a customization, or you can actually physically choose the actual individual chocolates that are going to be placed into that box. That's a personalization, right? And then putting your name on that actual box, right? So, I think that the easiest way to reference the difference is the level of work difference that, goes into personalization is a lot higher than customization. Customization is usually pick, pack, configure. Sorry, pick, configure, pack, whereas personalization is usually pick, print, apply, pack, and then deliver.
So Spiff does both, or one or the other?
Yeah, so Spiff is agnostic to the type of personalization or customization. Like I said before, every part of the experience the merchant can build is configurable to their needs. We have a series of different step types when you're creating a workflow on our platform that allow you to choose what it is that you want to offer the customer to do.
So there's no limits.
There's no limits. Like what we've tried to do, I mean, obviously we haven't seen anything that we haven't been able to do just yet. But basically you like anything that anything that the merchant wants to be able to offer the consumer to do above and beyond just click, add to cart and quantity, they can do with our platform.
So, like, if this is as powerful as you say, personalization, customization, if you solved a lot of these problems, why aren't more retailers doing this? I mean, this sounds great. Why aren't more people doing share a Coke kind of campaigns and Nike ID's shoe thing? What's stopping them?
Well, yeah. So as I said before, the main problem has always been that there's been no way to facilitate the entire customer journey and fulfillment in a cost-effective manner. The prime example of something like this where personalization has actually worked and commercialized on a very, very large scale has been the personalized book market. So customizing a book, photo books, right? And that was fueled by the smart device market. People now can take photos anywhere, blah, 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 and so they've got all these photos in their phones, and very rarely do they actually make it to the printed world. And so people often find that they have photos from 5 years ago that they never see because they're so far deeply, like what's it called, sitting in the back of their camera roll. But photo books became a thing because a group of companies decided that they would create a way for customers to easily add photos to a book, choose the number of pages, do some limited type, kinds of personalization to that book, and then order a book. But to do it, but order a book, a single book that goes into a production line and is printed as if it was being printed with 10,000 other books. So therefore, the cost of setup, that existed for doing printing one book, all of a sudden didn't exist anymore. And so then from that, you saw a $20 billion a year market grow, right? Wow. And that's personalization of one particular item, right? A book. And then from that, the promotional products and people uploading photos to promotional products came along. But, we haven't seen that flow onto, general products. It's really been in the photo market, right? What Spiff's done is created the same thing that the photo books market has created, but we've done it so that it can be applied to any product.
Wow.
Any product at all. It can be a furniture item. It can be a glass of, a bottle of wine. It can be a glass, and it can be, choosing.
I could get my name printed on like a wine glass or something and call it John's glass.
Not only that, you could choose the type of crystal that you wanted and see the differences in a 3D model. We can even make that crystal sparkle like only crystal can. You can choose the thickness of the glass and then turn the glass over and see the difference in the thickness. You can choose the style of the glass. You can choose the color shading. Wow. You can do anything. I mean, applying an actual name on a glass is just one of 100 different things you can do with customization and personalization that our software now facilitates. And remember what I said, at the end of the day, what our job is to very simply create the ability for a merchant to design any customization experience that they want, and then finish with an output file or metadata or a permalink that can then be fed into any third-party fulfillment software to actually then fulfill it as if it was a large quantity item product.
So let me get this straight. you could get the customer to design, let's just say it's a glass or a cup or whatever. I could design it in real time, personalize it however I want it, and then you could send a file to like a 3D printer, and the 3D printer would print out my product.
Correct. We even have a customer now that's on with us that does 3D printed purses.
So do we even need to use factories in China anymore then? Like you could just do one-to-one production.
Well, what I'm finding is that printers these days, manufacturers of actual printers these days are starting to, focus more and more on their small footprint machines. So to try to allow the facilitation of lots of people buying their own printer without having to be having a grease monkey sort of running it from the perspective of getting in and moving and adjusting parts, and you don't need an engineer to run a printer basically. And we're finding that happening more and more. You can buy a 3D printer these days for $700.
So this is So this is ultimately like just in time sort of inventory management, like one-to-one production. You don't need to really store inventory or products in a warehouse because it's made on order and then shipped straight away.
Yeah, that's right. So, in a 3D printer model, we can create a file and we can instruct a computer, or the computer that's attached to that 3D printer, to actually start printing. So somebody in Madagascar can order something here in Melbourne and make the printer in my home start printing once they've purchased the item, and then the product comes out of the machine, you put it into a package and off it goes. Now that's no different to somebody in Madagascar ordering a t-shirt that's just a white t-shirt that's plain and simple, and me going into the back room and going, yep, okay, I'll take that white t-shirt, put it in a box and send it to them. So what we've done is the level of automation that a merchant wants in the fulfillment process is totally up to them. We have some merchants that just say, hey, I just want a PDF and I want to do this on my own. Some merchants that say, I just want the order data and I want to be able to configure, the chair example I gave you before. I want to be able to say, go and put the wood finish arms with the cotton, backing in the orange, and I'll put that together quickly and send it out. So they just want the actual order summary, which we call metadata. But others want everything to just be totally automated. And we did this campaign in Big W stores for all the Christmas campaigns, where the store clerk would enter in a name, it would go off into the cloud, and then it would instruct the right printer in the right location to just start printing. So from their perspective, they feel like they're just typing in a name and it just comes out of the printer. The entire system is a cloud-based offering. So what's actually happening is they're submitting an order, it goes off into the cloud, we create a PDF, it sits in a queue, and then it's called upon from the print server that's on that location saying, hey, I'm location ABC, do you have anything for me? And it pulls it down and starts printing it. And that process, can be done in less than, 1 second.
Wow.
So whilst there's lots of things going on, it's all happening, in real time.
This sounds like a game changer for the retail industry. I'll just put it out there.
Yeah, look, I mean, the biggest problem for the retail industry, every retailer I've spoken to, especially in apparel, wants to offer customization of apparel. And I'm talking about not just printing direct to garment, printing the entire garment. So actually designing the entire garment from the material to the cut to the actual patterns that go on it. All of that, every one of them has a use case for offering that level of personalization. The barrier has always been the automation around actually being able to deliver that customer journey from the perspective of allowing the consumer to actually do that in a way that they're confident, right through to the actual fulfillment. So the printers, the machinery to fulfill that already exists. It's been around for a while, but the ability to actually make that entire customer journey run smoothly and cost effectively has never existed. And that's what we've tried to build. and
Okay,
we are
so
continuing to build.
this is great. I mean, from a merchant perspective, it sounds like you solved a lot of problems. What are the benefits though from a customer perspective? Because producing and fulfilling is one thing, but like, why would the customer use your software, and what do they get out of it?
Confidence in the product that they're ordering. If you're seeing a product in 3D and it's an accurate representation of the product that you're going to get. So if I imagine the chair, I've got a product model of a chair on the website, and it's got a metal, legs and a metal backing and a white seat in a particular fabric. And I want a wood grain finish and a different color with a different fabric. I'm not going to be confident in the product that I'm going to get because I actually can't see the product that I'm going to get. Whereas with a 3D model, seeing it in real time changing, I'll have confidence because not only will I design that product and see it as I'm designing it, but I'll be supplied with a permalink at the completion of my order that'll actually show me, it'll give me a link for me to be able to refer back to and say, that's what I ordered, that's what I want to see in the mail, right? So it's confidence. That's the main thing.
So is this an emotional kind of connection the customer's having?
Yeah, that's right. So it goes back to that whole discussion we were having earlier on about one of our main goals being that we're there to try to simulate the in-store experience. In store, the store clerk's main job is to build trust, right? And so we find what we're trying to do is try to instill that same sort of confidence. We're trying to give people the ability to be able to be confident that the product that they're ordering is the product that they want, right? Because one of the biggest problems for especially the apparel industry is returns, right? From a cost perspective, I think the last thing that I read was something like $40 billion a year worth of returns in the apparel industry. And you think about it, the industry pays for the return delivery. They then have to pay to repack it into their inventory. And the cost is outrageous. And the reason why people make so many mistakes is because of that lack of, the ability for them to sort of know and understand and be confident the product that they're ordering is the product they're going to get.
So you're solving like a $40 billion problem, because I know this is one thing that a huge cost that Amazon absorbs globally, which they pay for. So you could almost like negate a huge chunk of $40 billion.
Well, that's right. And so our goal has always been, when people look at the costs that of running Spiff on their platform, we always try to make people aware of that we should really be looked at as a revenue center rather than a cost center. One, we reduce the cost of of operation by automating so much that doesn't need to be done manually, and two, we
coming back to what you said, like the conversion rate, right, with people checking out, right? So, and people are probably buying customized things that they wouldn't normally buy because it's like a novelty thing or have an attachment to the brand, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. What was I saying when I was mentioning that? Oh, yeah. So the $40 billion problem. Yeah. So one, from the perspective of, what was I saying? What did I say? The first one?
Returns on apparel, and you're reducing the cost, but then also on the revenue side.
Oh, right. So yeah, so we're, as I said before, we're a reduction in the cost, but we're also a revenue center because we drive incremental sales because we reduce the amount of abandonments in the cart by building and instilling that confidence that in the product that they're ordering by having that 3D viewer.
Okay. Oh, that's great. I think every store probably needs your technology right now, especially every online retailer. So there's some major issues with scaling this kind of process. I can see this working for big businesses, and you mentioned you've worked with some major brands, major sort of CPG or FMCG brands. But, does this work for small businesses?
Absolutely. You think about it, let's use an example of a florist, right? You order flowers at a florist. What's the thing that always goes with your flowers? A greeting card. The greeting card market in Australia, it's a $500 million market, and it all goes to, 3 or 4 companies, large companies that can do it cost effectively and cheaply. But most of the time people want a greeting card to go out with a gift that they're purchasing. So from a florist, think of a small florist, they can buy a $500 printer and they can have pre-cut greeting cards, loaded into their printer. And when a person orders their flowers, they can choose to upload a picture and put in a nice message on a predetermined template. They can view the product with the flowers in 3D. And when they order it, we can automate it so that the card just comes out of the printer and the florist just folds the piece of paper in half. And there you go. There's $8. Thank you very much.
So if Hallmark wasn't in trouble before, they certainly are now with your technology.
Well, no, Hallmark would benefit from, so look at Hallmark. It's basically, if I was going to categorize Hallmark as a business, I would call it a creative business, because they're all about they're not selling, for them, it's not their business is not about selling paper. Their business is about creative, right? So they're selling ideas on what goes onto the actual card. So I see this as an opportunity for someone like Hallmark to partner to be able to offer the designs that could be printed within a small florist.
Wow!
So you think about it. Yeah. So they could Hallmark could be creating the content, because the florist is not going to be able to. Most florists are not going to be able to sit there and say, I'm going to design 15 different templates that the consumer likes. So if someone like Hallmark came along and said, all right, well, we'll provide you with the artwork, and then they get it. They basically, through our platform as a content provider, they can actually make a cut out of every card that's produced in the small florist without actually having to produce a card.
Because I see this as a massive opportunity, because a lot of e-com stores, they don't offer cards or gift cards, or if they do, it's their own little one. And, there's a sort of convoluted
it's often not
process.
Personalized. And if it is, it's usually a cost that they'll actually wear and incur themselves.
Wow.
Whereas this could be an actual revenue center as opposed to a cost center.
So it sounds like you guys will be unicorn status pretty soon then, sort of a couple of multi-billion-dollar valuation coming up?
Well, let's hope. I tell you what, I reckon I've worked hard enough to deserve it. But, working hard doesn't always pay off. So, we'll just see. Look, we're certainly working hard, and we're certainly, our goal is not to become $1 billion business, although that would be nice. It's certainly, our goal is to add value through incremental sales to all of our merchants via the platform and the services that we offer. And if we can achieve that, this was the same motto that I had, when I was a stockbroker. And, whenever I thought about the commissions that I would make, I'd always say the more money I can make for a customer, the more money I make in commissions. And so as long as I focus on continuing to make money for my customers, my money will just work itself out. And so that's the same mentality that Spiff incorporates, is as long as Spiff focuses on creating value and incremental sales and reduction in actual fulfillment costs to the merchant, the rest of it will work itself out. And that's sort of is exactly the reason why we have structured our pricing model the way we have. We've got a very low subscription cost, and then we've got a small transaction fee, which is meant to be seen as a partnership. If you do 10 transactions a month, we're not going to be making very much. But if we can get you from 10 transactions to 1,000, then we make more money. It's the same model.
So your pricing model is based on sales from the merchant. So the more they make, the more you make. So you're sort of intertwined in terms of your objectives. Correct. Wow. That's
so we like to think of ourselves. Spiff likes to think of itself as a partner to an e-commerce business.
Great. Okay. Wow. So coming back to this, we've mentioned some shoe companies. You mentioned Cadbury. I've mentioned Share a Coke. I don't think you guys do that, do you? Or Nike ID. That was old campaigns, wasn't it?
Yeah. So Coke and Nike have had is the size of their companies. They've gone and created a personalization experience that's specific to their requirements, and they've paid a lot of money to create it.
So what are some of your favorite campaigns then, like in this space, in personalization and customization?
Look, I mean, the Share a Coke campaign, is probably the best campaign to use as a way to sort of, justify the reason why personalization works. I mean,
I heard a rumor that was started out of the Melbourne office of Coca-Cola. I read online, and you're in Melbourne as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, that's right.
So Share a Coke was an Aussie invention then.
Yes. So I'm told. Yeah, so I'm told it's the idea came from some marketing executive out of an office that was only a couple of kilometres away from our printing firm back then. So look, Coke hadn't seen an increase in sales globally for many years, and to my knowledge, they saw global sales increase by a significant amount, I think as high as 8%, as a result of the Share a Coke campaign, because of all the extra noise that came with the campaign itself.
What do you mean by noise?
Again, well, there was a lot of media around this whole thing where you could go into a store or into a petrol station or into a shop, and just, you had people searching, moving bottles out of the way.
Actually, I remember my friends trying to find, Coke bottles with their names on it, and like people would go out of the way and they'd buy 10, 20 of them so nobody else could have their name. It went crazy.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. And so, the media that they got out of that on a global scale was, significantly helped invigorate the brand from what I've read.
And with social media, I suppose the virality potential of that is massive.
Oh, absolutely. And to my knowledge, it's still a very important part of Coke's business going, Coke's marketing, operations moving forward.
So let me get this straight. It's not just about incremental sales volume through customization and purchase of that, but more so the secondary effects and the impact on the brand, creating that share of voice.
Well, you think about it, like you've got a global iconic brand, and I can put my name on it, or, it's the same thing when you buy, Louis Vuitton gives you the ability now to do things like monogram your purses. So you pay $4,000 for a handbag that has your initials on it.
Wow.
It's as simple and as minimalist as your initials. But it's still, when you wear it, it's your Louis Vuitton. It's not a Louis Vuitton, it's your Louis Vuitton. And that's the difference.
That's great.
And so with that comes that increased brand loyalty.
So I'm seeing really what you've created is an entirely new marketing channel that probably brands aren't aware of how lucrative it is.
Oh, absolutely. And some of the things that we're doing moving forward with regards to being able to share designs and share things that, share creations that have been made on the Spiff platform, and how that can lead to increased sales. I would say that, yes, without getting too much into them, because some of it's still pretty sensitive, again, the driving force behind all of our decision making with regards to our development schedule is all driven around driving incremental sales to the merchant. So
do you think
a merchant that partners with us is not just buying a piece of software that stays, that is like a snapshot in time. As with most software, we're constantly updating. We're constantly finding new ways to innovate. Someone that's partnered with us is going to be at the forefront of what personalization and customization can do, what technology can do at all times.
Great. So do you think the scales are sort of turning back towards the customer being more involved with the brand and interacting with the product, rather than, almost like a how do I say, democratization? That's the word that gets sort of thrown around a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, the customer, needs to feel like they're a part of the actual experience, and social media has made that what it is. Previously nobody ever thought that they could have their name on, or their personal touches added to an iconic brand, because it's all been about, the brand and its packaging is its brand, right? And we can't change that for anybody, because it's all about brand recognition. But like a little while ago, we saw this back when we were in the printing days, brands started to realize that their packaging it should be classed as more of a communications piece rather than a branding exercise. And so things like personalization come right into play. It's a way for them to communicate and interact with their consumers.
Yeah, but lost opportunity, isn't it? Like you never think about that product packaging is just standardized. But so you're saying you can customize the product packaging and then communicate through that at a one.
Well, that's right. And through things like, advancements in things like augmented reality, you can actually create a way to communicate with your consumers through the branding.
Sorry, do you have augmented reality as well? Or?
That's right. So we have got augmented reality. We launched the first ever commercially sized personalized augmented reality campaign in December last year with a campaign that we did for Allen's, where it was very simple. The user put their name on an Allen's tin of lollies, a 400-gram tin of lollies, and then when they viewed it with our app, they were able to see an augmented reality experience, an animation play that incorporated their name in the animation. So not just that their name was printed, their name was in the animation.
So you can personalize at scale augmented reality experiences.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Augmented reality is a very powerful tool that I think, again, it's probably a little bit still premature, because a user's device, users that need to have the most up-to-date devices. I think the biggest barrier for augmented reality for us that we found was that you needed to download an app. Nowadays, you can see that late model devices, you don't need to download an app. You can view it through the camera using the browser that's available in the phone. But there's not enough devices that are exposed to that have that have the ability to execute that technology. And in particular, I'm talking about ARKit and AR Core. But as the years go on, within the next year or two, when everybody transitions to a late model device, you'll find that augmented reality will form a big component of our business, because it's just another way to personalize the experience. And because we do everything in 3D, it's very easy for us to translate that into into augmented reality.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting point, because, to do augmented reality with a product, you need to have a 3D model to superimpose in the real life background, don't you? So
and so our software already has the capability to take that customization. So say you customize let's go back to the chair example. Say you customize the chair. I can then take that customized chair and place it in the room, and see what it's going to look like next to the table that I'm going to put it with.
After you've personalized it.
After you've personalized it. So, to my knowledge, there's not many people out there that are doing that as part of a personalization process. I know that you can grab a product and you can place it in the room. IKEA did it.
Yeah, I've seen IKEA's. Yeah.
Yeah, but not as part of the actual personalization experience. So I'm offering all of these different personalization points on the actual, including me putting a picture. So say I'm ordering throw pillows, and I want to be able to put my face on the throw pillow, or a particular image that I like, or a particular pattern that I like on the throw pillow. I can then throw that pillow, literally onto the couch and see it with that personalization on the couch.
Wow, that's I haven't heard of that. Anybody else doing that kind of thing?
That capability is still in beta right now. We haven't had, and the reason it is there is because we haven't had many customers at this point that are prepared to, prepared to give it a go. And the reason, again, goes back to the fact that, most users are still not, augmented reality is still not an like a
So the
thing that
adoption barrier really isn't.
the
It hasn't
adoption is not
broken.
there yet. That's right. So once the adoption is there for AR, our software, for us, AR is just another tool that we add to the platform.
Yep. Yep.
So we have it there and we've tested it and it works and we've done it at scale, but we just don't have many customers now that have a need for it because not enough of a percentage of their customers have adopted using something like AR to make it worthwhile.
So is this why more people aren't using your technology because of these barriers are there and present?
The barrier, for us existed. So the main reason something like what we've created hasn't come around until now is being a hardware issue. Even till now, like our software, because we're doing so much, think about it, we're rendering 3D models in the browser. That's not an easy thing to do in the past, especially. And so, and it's reliant pretty heavily upon, whilst we do compress the files and the software, is designed to be able to specifically render 3D models in the browser, albeit low poly. Still, you need a device that has enough grunt in it to be able, and it has to be able to run things, run the particular, components within the browser that it requires to be able to run 3D. And that's something that you find is not available on machines that are more than 5 or 6 years old. So, that still is a slight barrier for us. Like we're finding that 70% of our merchants' customers, probably closer to 80% now. That was probably about a year ago. So I'd say that now, we haven't measured it, but I think now we probably find that it's probably 85% of our consumers, of our merchants' consumers, have the ability to play and use the 3D customizer or go through that experience on their handheld device.
So we're pretty close then. I reckon maybe 1 or 2 years, that's going to be 100 or 90 something percent.
Well, that's right. And look, I think that, given another year or two, you'll find that, with the introduction of 5G and faster internet speeds and so on, all of a sudden, you'll see that, displaying products in 2D and giving a person just a photo view of what they're buying will become a thing of the past.
Yeah, and I've noticed with the new iPads and new iPhones, they got like LiDAR, which is like a laser sounding thing. So when you put a 3D object in the room, it's already scanned the room. You can create like your own retail experience just by scanning your store or your room that you want to create. So
absolutely, you'll find that Apple, we know that Apple and Google are spending an amazing amount of money on building these capabilities around augmented reality. And again, for us, it's just another tool that we offer in our platform, so that when the market is there and it's adopted, all we need to do is add that tool to our platform. But augmented reality, to be clear, is just a way to view what a person has done on our platform. It's just another output file, sure. Right? So where we said before that the output is either a PDF, a JPEG, or a metadata, or a permalink, in that case, it'll be an actual 3D model that can be then displayed and animated in real time, as AR.
Wow. So what are some examples of personalization campaigns that you've seen that haven't worked? Like, is there anyone who shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff?
Oh, look, I don't think there's any industry that wouldn't benefit from personalization that I can think of. I mean, obviously, you've got to be able to offer the ability to customize your product, right? Like, so if you're buying, if your company sells, planes, and you sell 5 a year for 20 million each, probably not worth, offering customization because you'll walk them in. But anybody that has any business type where they want to predominantly sell online and increase and scale their sales online would benefit greatly from offering personalization. And where I've seen it not work is where you've got, and not to the detriment of the actual merchants that have tried it. It's been because of the lack of the ability to be able to make the costs work of the fulfillment. That's been the main drawback that we've seen in personalization campaigns that haven't worked. They just haven't been cost effective. And it's either been because it's not been a lot of businesses, it's a real commitment, and that's the thing that I think merchants need to understand. It's offering personalization is a real commitment. You've got to want to be able to offer something, that is of value to the consumer. It's not enough to just say, here's a purse, let's place a picture on it, right? Because who's going to buy that? I mean, that exists now. Who's going to buy that? But if I create content or create that pave the way for a user to be able to create something that is really bespoke to me, that looks highly professional without me having to be a professional designer, then I'm going to buy that every time. And so that's where you see the successful campaigns are the ones that give the user all the tools to highly customize the platform without any knowledge. But the ones that we see that fail are the ones that say, well, I'm offering personalization. Here they can type a message. Why aren't I selling any? I mean, at the end of the day,
there's got to be a reason for it. Like, it's got to be on brand and a strategy behind it.
Correct. It's not just it's not enough to just say I'm offering personalization. There has to be a strategy.
Okay.
And look, what we're finding to the credit of all the merchants, we're finding that most of the merchants that are coming onto our platform have got a very clear and defined strategy and have been actually looking for what we're doing for quite some time.
Okay. That's great. And I suppose, I watch on YouTube sometimes these unboxing videos that there's this whole subreddit and Instagram accounts, which is just all people opening boxes. So I can see some product use cases for packaging and improving that experience, because that's often missing from the in-store experience, where you go and you physically get the product and you're showing it and you open it and feel it. So you can also do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the best example of why packaging is so important is Apple, right? I don't know anybody that throws away the box that their Apple product came in. I've still got the boxes my iPhone 4 came in, right? And it's just because you just look at it and you just think there's so much effort that went into making this that I just can't throw it away, right? And when you open it, it's like if you get an Apple. I actually spoke to store clerks at a Telstra store, or like a telecommunications store, when I was buying my phone. At one point, they were saying to me that if an Apple product is already open, like the plastic is broken, then you'll find that people won't buy it, and they'll treat it, even if it's just been open, because they want to know that they are the first human being to ever see this product outside of the manufacturer. And it's such an important part of the actual buyer's journey, right? And Apple have understood this and realized it. And so now we're seeing so many businesses that are focusing so heavily, especially because we don't get to talk to the consumer anymore in a store. So you don't find that you can just sit there and grab a T-shirt and shove it into a bag and put it into a box and send it. If you want to get repeat business out of someone, that unboxing experience, and then, by default, if I've got any details from a consumer, I can actually automate some form of personalization onto that packaging, and that the user wasn't even expecting to get.
Wow. Have you done this already with any of your clients, or?
We are doing it at the moment with a customer. I can't say just yet who, but that's pretty cutting edge, right?
Wow.
To sit there and say the data that we have on a customer based on the way that they've interacted with our platform, and it could be just their name, and it could be just a color they've selected. It can be used to automate a personalization process. So in this case, there's no 3D model, there's no personalization process from the consumer's perspective, but the choices that are made and the selections that are made throughout the process of purchasing that product can then be automated to produce a print file that can be applied to whatever packaging that they're building.
So let me get this straight. You can automate a scalable, personalized unboxing experience.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, our platform is designed to just provide any customer experience, whether it be no customer experience from the front end, or a customer experience where every single pixel or dot on a particular product is customizable. It's all up to the merchant. It's all configurable. So
Okay.
it's up to them what sort of experience they want to deliver.
So, what's your vision for the future? Where do you see you fitting into the retail landscape and your tech, like 5-10 years from now?
Well, I mean, look, we hope that we'll be a staple that is as important to any business, any retail online business, as it is for them to, do marketing and promotion on Facebook and Instagram and so on. I think that, we are going to hopefully continue to become the platform that provides the tools that allows the merchant to offer innovative ways for consumers to interact with their brands through personalization and customization.
Wow. Okay. So that's kind of the end of most of the sort of standard questions. The next ones is more about you. So, some of the viewers want to know who this Shadi person is. So give me some backstory. What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced in business and how did you overcome them?
Oh, biggest challenges in business.
Biggest
Look,
mistakes
when
you've
I
made?
went, yeah, the biggest mistake I made. I mean, I think I'm like, even my mistakes. I've always got a way of finding the positive of why, I made the choice that I made. So whether it be to my detriment or not, when I went into the printing game, as a result of, when we spoke about us creating this efficiency broking firm, where we were offering services where what we were doing was we were supplying better processes to suppliers of hospitality businesses that would lead to a reduction in cost, and we were taking our percentage out of the efficiencies we created. That's why we called ourselves an efficiency broker. And one of the things that we sort of realized was that, oh, look, this printing thing, these printers weren't getting it right. And so we went and purchased printers and became manufacturers. So that's probably the biggest mistake that I made in business, was to actually become the manufacturer when I'm clearly more, I clearly am more predisposed, to being a facilitator. But that experience taught me the pain points of the fulfillment process, which led us to where we are now. So that's me taking a negative and turning it into a positive.
No, that's great. I mean, so it looks like you've worked, because I have within my discipline, I've worked all the way throughout the supply vertical, right? So, the brand itself, to the
Yes.
customer experience, to all the intermediaries. And not until you do that, do you see the bigger picture of the machine.
That's right.
And where opportunities are.
Yeah, you can't create something like this unless you understand every aspect of the process. When I talk to fulfillers, I know exactly their pain points because I've gone through it. I went through it for 10 years, right? I know exactly where their pain points are. I know exactly where their barriers are, their bottlenecks are. And so we've designed the platform with that in mind. So when we come to a fulfiller, they're like, oh my God, you've solved all the problems that we need, and like, how did you know? Well, I made the mistakes that you're making. I've been in that place. And so what we've tried to do is try to, develop a platform that's all things to fulfillers, that's all things to merchants, that creates an amazing experience for consumers and provides an opportunity for content creators to then contribute by creating the content that will feed this entire infrastructure.
Rather than trying to control the creative process. So you're using the sort of
That's right.
power of collaboration.
Correct.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. Hey, so a couple of standard questions. What books are you reading right now that have changed your perspective on, whether it's personalization or spiff or business in general? What do you recommend everyone else should read?
Well, I'm not much of a book reader, to be honest. I'm like, when I read, it's usually to educate, and I've never really been much of a reader of books for the purpose of, understanding other people's experiences. Mainly anytime I read, and I read a lot, it's to learn something new, to learn a new process, to understand a new industry, or to understand, how something works. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask in that regard.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm a bit the same. I'd rather read like a journal specific to something I'm working on, or like a white paper, from a reputable source than a fictional
Correct.
book. Or,
that's what you'll find. I don't know whether it's a time thing. I always feel like
It is for me too. And you know
yeah, I
what?
always feel like,
You're pretty hard to get a hold of. Like, I
yeah,
tried
well, I
many
always,
times to get you. You're very busy.
well, I mean, it's like there's, we're in a startup, right? And we're only 9 staff. And so wherever, unfortunately for the founder, whenever there's a hole in the business, the founder has to fill it. So you find that a founder has to take on many roles. And then once a particular aspect of that business becomes, justifies its cost, we then allocate a resource to that cost, and then I get freed up in that particular component. But with how fast we're growing now, and scaling, and there's still many areas that we've got to fill. So unfortunately, it means that my time is pretty spread out pretty thinly. But and so therefore, when I do have time, I tend to read to educate rather than read for fun.
Sure. Well, I appreciate your time today. So, really, I think, a lot of the listeners are going to get a lot out of this conversation. So, coming to the next one, maybe you're reading websites, any sort of websites around this area or within your niche that you'd recommend people bookmark? Spiff.com.au.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, we're working on recreating that at the moment. That's the other thing about a startup, is that you find that something that you built 6 months ago and content that you've got up there 6 months ago, with how fast we move with regards to the services we offer and the way in which we offer them, you find that when you read your website again, it's totally obsolete in 3 months or 6 months. And so I think we're changing our website again, and this will, I think, be the 6th time where it's being totally redone, because all of the content needs to be updated. So,
yep.
Yeah, that's
okay.
So what we're doing.
I'll put Spiff in the links then.
Spiff, yeah.
Why not? I'll put the help subdomain or something like that, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, what about a piece of tech that you can't do without that helps you do your job better?
Well, right now, I would say that I couldn't live without Google, and I couldn't live without Zoom, and I couldn't live without what else? It's really, Google and Zoom. And I can't live without Amazon Web Services. That's pretty much the only thing. Pandemic, can hit us as hard as it wants, and as long as people are still buying online, we're going to be fine. But if something breaks the internet, we're in trouble.
Good answer. What about, this is your time to sort of plug whatever you're working on. I'm guessing it's going to be Spiff, but what do you want to sort of tell users they should check out?
Well, I mean, our platform is constantly changing. So if you're a merchant, we'd love to talk to you. And if you're a consumer, we'd love you to go and visit merchants that have got our software. But from the perspective of, in general, not really, I haven't really ever thought of it.
Maybe a prospective customer, say there's a retailer e-commerce person that's listening right now and you want to go, hey, go here. This is awesome.
Yeah, I think visit any of the platform, any of the businesses that are operating on our platform. I mean, demo.spiff.com.au, which is our Shopify demo site, is a great place to go and see examples of how our customers, example products of what of what we can do, and also example capabilities around the step types that we can offer. And
I might put some of the merchant sites, like you mentioned you do Vegemite and the shoe company. I might put.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You've got Vegemite, you've got Cocoa Black, you've got the hand dyed shoe company. There's lots of sites, probably too many for me to reel off from the top of my head. But we're dealing with a lot of, a range from, high-end enterprise all the way down to a small, tiny shop-based merchant.
Perfect. So if someone wants to connect with you, I know you're very busy. What's the best channel? LinkedIn, Twitter, email?
Yeah, look, I'll respond to any. I look at all my, social platforms, even email.
If you had to pick one.
Reach out to me. I'd pick one. I'd pick LinkedIn.
Okay, LinkedIn. That's
Link,
been very popular. I think that's 3 from 3 right now.
yeah.
Perfect.
Well,
Okay.
it is. It is the area that's you find that is the least cluttered with ads and all the things that you don't want to kind of see. So it's the one that you would check the most.
Okay. Well, look, that's all the questions I had. So thanks very much, Shadi, for your time today. I know you're a very busy man, and I think there's a lot that e-commerce and retailers across the world can digest on this episode. So thanks again for your time, and I'll talk to you again soon.
No worries.